we're going to cover two skills in one. We're going to look at how to convert a decimal to a percent and then go the opposite direction and convert a percent into a decimal. Let's first review what a percent is. The word percent can be broken up into two words, per and cent. Per means for each. So if I was to say I have one cookie per student, that would mean I have one cookie for each student. The root cent reminds us of the word century. And if you remember, century means 100 years. There's 100 cents in a dollar. Cent literally means 100. So the word percent means per 100. So if I was to say that 30% of all students today are wearing glasses, that would mean 30 out of every 100 students would be wearing glasses. Let's look at how to turn a decimal to a percent. The first thing that you have to remember is that a decimal is part of a whole. It is less than 1. So if we were to look at the decimal point 65, it's less than 1. So we need to convert that into how much out of 100, how close to out of 1 that is. So we have to multiply by 100. Remember, when you multiply, your number that has the most digits goes on top, and your number that has the less amount of digits comes next. And then we can multiply in the standard long multiplication way, even though we have a decimal point. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. We need a 0 placeholder because we're moving over to the next digit. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 1 is 6. Then I can add these together. 0, 0, 5, 6. Now I have 2 digits behind the decimal point in my problem. So my solution also must have 2 digits behind. So that's where my decimal point would cut off my number. And so this is 65%. So 65 out of 100 is what this is telling us. I do want you, though, to keep in mind that a percent can be greater than 100. It is possible. So let's do a little bit of practice here. I'm going to have you pause the video. I want you to divide these to multiply these 4 numbers by 100, and then restart the video so that you can see the answers. All right, check your work. Make sure that you have the same answers that I do. If not, fix your work because these are your notes, so it's important that they are accurate. All right, so let's now look the other way. Let's look at how to convert a percent to a decimal. So we know that we're going to end up with a number that is part of a whole number, right? Because we're going to end up with a decimal, which is part of a whole. So in order to do this, we know that we have to divide. So we are going to divide our percent by 100. So if we look at the number 75%, this would mean 75 divided by 100. So it would be 75 divided by 100. Well, 75 is less than 100, so I have to add my decimal and my 0, and then I'm going to bring it up into my quotient. 750 divided by 100 is 7. 7 times 100 is 700. Then I can subtract. I've got 50 left, so I need to add another 0 and keep going. 500 divided by 100 is 5. 5 times 100 is 500. So now I'm at 0. So that means that 75% is equal to 0.75 because we divided. I want you to pause the video here. I want you to work out these problems with division and then come back and check your work. Make sure you pause. All right, check your work. make sure that you have the same answers that I do. And if not, go back and fix your work. Find where you went wrong. I'm going to teach you a little bit of a shortcut that I like to refer to as Dr. Pepper. So when you write the D and the P, I want you to think of D as standing for decimal and P as standing for percent. So when you are converting your decimal to a percent, all you need to do is move your decimal point 2 places to the right. This is like multiplying by 100. Always move your decimal 2 places, and you can add zeros if you need to. You need to remember then that you have to put the percent sign at the end. You're going from a decimal to a percent. So I could put my pencil right on the decimal point here in 0.6, and I'm going to swoop 2 times to the right. This divot that's left here needs a number in it, so I'm going to give it a 0. So now my decimal point has moved to behind that 0, which gives me 60. So I know that that becomes 60%. Now when I need to convert the other way, again, I'm thinking of Dr. Pepper, except this time I'm going to move from a percent to a decimal, so I'm moving to the left. So I'm going to move that decimal point 2 places to the left. Percents to decimals, it's almost like Pepper Doctor instead of Dr. Pepper. So when I'm converting percents to decimals, I'm going to rewrite the number without the percent sign because it just gets in the way. I'm going to put a decimal at the end of the number if there's not one already there. Sometimes we don't write a decimal point. If we have a whole number, we don't put the decimal point there. Then I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the left this time because I'm moving from the percent to the decimal. So I'm going to write 54% without the percent sign. I know that in the number 54, there's an understood decimal to be behind the 4. Now I'm going to move it 2 places to the left, 1, 2, and I end up with 0.54. Here's some practice problems. I want you to pause this video. Remember, you can use Dr. Pepper for going from decimal to percent 2 spaces to the right. If we're going from percent to decimal, 2 spaces to the left. Pause the video and then come back and check your answers. Check your work against mine. Make sure that you have your answers correct. And if you don't, come and see me so we can talk about why.